Alrighty. Okay, here we go. Let me get this out of the way. So I just saw that Hakeem and Vosh debate. It was fairly cordial, so I'll give them that. But what people kept bringing, or what Vosh kept bringing up in particular, was that the United States is rich. And this is some rhetoric that I've heard. Obviously he was a Bernie stan, this and that. But I hear this BS take that the U.S. is rich. And I say to myself, well, I mean, what constitutes rich in this case? It's like the country as a whole. I'm like, well, companies are rich. Individuals may be rich. But it's like, are the people rich? It's like, nah. I mean, that's the whole thing. When I hear this bullshit type statement where it's like, oh, is the U.S. rich? It's like, not really. It's like, yeah, they get money, but it depends on what your definition of rich is. I know that sounds like a Bill Clinton sort of statement, but it's like, what constitutes rich? A rich culture or a rich history is like, I mean, if you're really on the anti-American path, you're like, well, no, America was built on slavery and racism and white supremacy and whiteness. So it's like, so that's not a rich history. That's pretty nasty history, right? So you can't do it in that way. Monetarily speaking, it's like, well, not really. The thing is, we rely on interest rates. We rely on credit. That doesn't make a country rich. That's a country that's created in debt. It's like, so I mean, if you think about it from an economic standpoint, it's like the United States isn't rich. We know how to put on a face. Now, that's my take anyway. Like I say, I'm not even going to sit here and disagree with Hakeem because I think that's a bit cringe. It's like, look, the dude's Iraqi, this and that. It's like, if I was talking to Hakeem, I would probably ask some pretty cringe questions like, okay, what do you actually think of Kataib Hezbollah in Iraq? What do you think of, I don't know, it's like, I know that he's mentioned aspects about what does he think about Iran, but I would ask him questions like, oh, okay, is your family Sunni or Shia or this and that? But it's like I said, I know that's an ignorant, spoiled, bratty American way, but that's how I would do it, and it probably wouldn't be very good. But I'm a spoiled, bratty American. I'll be honest, and maybe I'm coping a little bit because it's like I wish I had that sort of clout, but it's like, when I see these types of things, like, oh, is the U.S. rich? I'm like, yeah. I mean, if you want to see it that way, it's like, yeah, you can buy stuff easily in America or in the United States. It's like, yeah, you can buy stuff. But that doesn't make you rich. Just because you have $100 million in the bank doesn't mean you're rich necessarily. And I say that as a cope because it's like, that's all based on the value of that dollar. Once the dollar or the value of the dollar collapses, that's toilet paper. That's the whole thing. It's like, think about like the Weimar Republic with having, oh yeah, he's got $100 million in Deutschmarks. He's got 100 million Deutschmarks. That doesn't mean anything. That could barely buy you a loaf of bread, back in the Weimar era, especially the early Weimar era. So it's like when I hear that type of shit, it's like, it's all about perception, And I was like, and I know this is somewhat big brain, but I always hear this. This is another reason I think why socialism or the idea of that fails. I'll watch him.
The chicken thing is open.
Uh-huh.
It's going nuts.
Okay.
Are you done?
Yeah, I'm done with it. You can give him.
Close it.
No, you can give it to him if he's, yeah, that's fine. Well, I'm just going to leave that in. I'm just going to leave it in. All right. But yeah, I'm just ranting and raving here. But I think that it's one of those things about, oh, well, is the U.S. rich? It's like, well, it's only rich in terms of how much the value of the dollar is or how much the value of your Bitcoin is, It's like if that value collapsed, then it doesn't mean anything. You see what I'm saying? So, yeah, I mean, that's my take. You know what? The dog wants to go in, so I'm going to go ahead and end it here. I hope y'all enjoyed that. See you later. Goodbye.